let's talk about chargers. So before I mentioned that we charge at home and we charge between the hours of midnight and 6 a.m. It does take us, we charge about every 5 days, 4 or 5 days, and it does take us about 4 to 6 hours, depending on how much we've driven, to charge at home. But there is, thank God I have a husband that does a lot of research, and we knew all of this before we purchased the vehicle, but one charger is not the same as another. So I'll let him go into detail about the different types of charging options. Obviously, we're not taking 6 hours to charge on the road. So Brad, why don't you talk about chargers?
Sure. So each car has a maximum charging amperage. So for example, on our Mach-E, we can charge at up to 48 amps, which is the highest you can go. So, you know, there's different levels of chargers. So you can plug into a regular 110 volt wall outlet. Probably not very feasible. You only add about 3 miles per hour of charge. So that's, you know, emergency situations likely only, not viable on a day-to-day. We chose to go with a ChargePoint, Home Flex it's called. And then there's different options of whether you wire a 220 volt outlet and plug it into that, or if you hardwire it. The big advantage of hardwiring is that you can draw the maximum amperage, and therefore you can put the most charge possible in your vehicle. So we did hardwire ours. All in, you know, the charger I think was about $700. I'm a little bit of a DIYer, so materials were about $100 to install it. I did the bulk of the installation and then had an electrical friend just double check and do the final connections for me. So all in with the charger, materials, and what I paid my friend to inspect it, we were about $1,000 into the charger. And then our electric company, as part of that rate and installation, gave us a $250 credit towards either electric bill or a check. And then in the gas savings that Jen mentioned earlier, you know, we'll just recoup that over the next few months. The charger will basically pay for itself in the savings.
In about 3 months.
In about 3 months. So that's our home charging situation. Again, we charge every 3, 4, 5 days as needed. And that's called a level 2 charger, basically, is the 240 volt up to our car is 48 amps. When you're on the road, you can DC fast charger. So all your home chargers are AC, so your home current up to 240 volt. When you're on the road, the big advantage is, as you know, batteries are DC. So you can go to a DC fast charger, and those can charge, ours can charge at up to 150 kilowatt hour. They even have chargers that go to 350, but those are usually going to be your Porsches and your high-end cars will have that. Our particular car can only go up to 150 kilowatt. But one thing else about the home charging is usually for day-to-day use, you stay between 20 and 80% for battery maintenance. So just like your cell phone, you know, you shouldn't always keep it at 100%. You shouldn't always keep it at 0. Kind of the sweet spot for longevity of the battery is 20 to 80%. Also, after that 80%, whether you're at home or on the road, your charging curve slows down, so the charging rate slows down. So even on the road trips, you may not charge to 100% every time you stop, because it'll be faster, you know, just to charge up to the 80%. The level 3 fast chargers, you can add, you know, anywhere. You know, we're going to Hilton Head right now. We are probably being a little more conservative because it's our first road trip. I would say pretty consistently you're anywhere from 20 to 30 minutes for a charge. We are going to be, it looks like it's projecting 39 minutes. And that's just because we're being a little more conservative and adding extra. We're going up to 95%, just because we want to be a little more cautious on our first road trip.
So instead of a 20-minute stop for gas and a restroom break, it's going to be more like a 40-minute stop for us. So it's a little bit longer, which is a little less convenient for sure, but we'd be stopping anyway.
Yeah, I think the other thing is when you stop, there's an app that will calculate. You can put in what kind of food you like. If there, you know, you can find a charger near Mexican restaurants or things like that. And then, you know, when you charge, the cost will cover a cost in a separate video, but there is a cost. It's more expensive to charge on road trips, definitely, than it is at home. So the cheapest way possible to charge is in your around town, leveraging. Even on road trips, though, it's significantly cheaper than gas is.
So that's why we kind of consider this more of an around the town car. Our son goes to a private school. We drive him to school and home every single day. So we have that commute. We both work from home, so we don't have a commute into the office. But if you did have a daily commute, this would be a much more ideal car for that, because your costs are so low. Also, I want to talk a little bit about the battery itself. We get a lot of questions about the battery. Does it cost $20,000, $30,000 to replace the battery? The short answer to that is yes, it does. It costs somewhere between $20,000 and $25,000 to replace the car battery. The difference is it's not like a car battery in a regular gas-powered engine car, a combustible engine. The battery has a warranty on it. The battery lasts the warranty is good for 8 years, 100,000 miles. The technology with the particular battery, and this was well researched before we purchased our car, but the type of technology in the battery that is in our car, there's not a ton of data on it, but they're showing it may last even 300,000 to 400,000 miles. So chances are you're not going to have to change the battery at all. If you do have to change it, it's going to be 10 years, 15 years down the road. And if you count, hey, we're saving $2,200 in gas a year, $3,000 a year on gas, it still well covers the cost of a battery.
Yeah, the other thing is Tesla is obviously the market leader still, and there's been research out that they've got Teslas that are going 500,000 miles with I don't quote me exactly, but I think it was like 15 to 20% capacity loss, and still going. So you do lose some capacity. I think our warranty, like Jen said, is 8 year, 100,000 miles. I think it's guaranteed for 90% of the original capacity.
I think it's 80%.
The question we get a lot is, what happens if there's no chargers and you run out of battery? So our particular vehicle is a Ford Mach-E. They have a warranty for 5 years. It's free towing to the nearest charger or your home charger, whichever you're closest to. So that gives you a little bit of peace of mind in your range anxiety if you were to get stranded. As I covered in the chargers, level 2 chargers, so that's like our home charger that can add about 38 to 40 miles on our hardwired situation. Usually you're no more than 10 miles away from one of those. The DC fast chargers, we're in Georgia. I think less than 3% of cars are still electric, so we aren't California with chargers everywhere yet. But even with that, you're fairly close to a DC charger, but it's going to be farther spaced apart than those level 2 chargers.
Also, I wanted to address everyone's talking. Speaking of California, the recent suggestions in California to not charge your electric vehicle. A lot of that has been way over exaggerated. So they're not saying don't charge your electric car. They're saying don't charge it during peak hours. If you're charging at home, you almost never want to charge during peak hours anyway, because the cost to charge it is more. It's much less expensive if you charge overnight. Even if we didn't have the rate plan that we're on, where we get the 400 free kilowatt hours overnight per month, even if we were just paying overnight, the cost is like a quarter of the cost of charging it during the day. So we could easily be in California right now, and there would be zero impact with the new suggestions that they just put out to not charge your car during the day.